Atlanta, we have a problem. A big one. A season-altering, defense-shattering, front office scrambling problem. And if you're a Falcons fan, you might want to sit down for this one. Because what happened at practice this week is the kind of news that turns a promising training camp into an all-out 5-alarm fire drill. Jaylen Walker, the electric, up-and-coming pass rusher who was supposed to be the engine of this Atlanta defense in year 2, is done. Finished, out for the season. And the way it happened makes it sting even worse, because this wasn't some brutal collision, some cheap shot, some freak accident involving another player. No, this was a non-padded, non-contact rep, an 11-on-11 2-minute drill simulation, the kind of rep that happens 1,000 times a summer without incident. Except this time, Jaylen Walker's body simply betrayed him. He planted, he pushed upfield on a routine pass rush rep, and his knee gave out from underneath him. No hit, no contact, just his own body turning on him in the middle of what should have been just another rep on just another day of camp. He went down immediately, hands over his face, unable to put any weight on that leg. And here's the detail that tells you everything you need to know about how serious this looked in real time. Head coach Raheem Morris didn't just call a quick water break or move on to the next drill. He shut the entire practice down. Canceled it. Done. When a head coach pulls the plug on an entire training camp session because of one player's injury, you know it's bad. You know everyone on that field, from the star quarterback to the equipment managers, felt the air get sucked out of Flowery Branch in that instant. Now look, nobody wants to diagnose an injury before the medical staff does their job, and to be fair to the process, the full Emory results were still pending confirmation at the time of this report. There are tests, the Lockman test, the pivot shift test, that team doctors run to check the stability and integrity of the knee, and technically, there's a small window where the news could come back better than feared. But let's be honest with each other here. If you've spent any real time around football, around sports in general, you know the look, you know the sound, you know the way a player crumples and grabs his own face when he already knows deep down that something just changed in his career. All the early signs point to a torn ankle. And if that's confirmed, Jaylen Walker's 2026 season is over before it really began. Let that sink in for a second, because this isn't just some rotational depth piece going down. This is the guy. This is the second-year breakout star who was supposed to take the leap. As a rookie, Walker was an absolute revelation. 5.5 sacks, 27 total pressures, flashing the exact kind of get-off, bend, and finishing ability that makes NFL evaluators drool. He was 15th overall rated pass rusher last year as a rookie, which is an absolutely absurd number for a first-year player. The hype train wasn't just building, it had already left the station. Everyone who watched this Falcons defense last year had circled Jaylen Walker as the guy poised for a monster sophomore leap. The only question anybody had about him going into this season wasn't about talent. It was about health. And now, in the cruelest way possible, that exact fear has come true. So here's where Atlanta finds itself. Down its most explosive young pass rusher for the entire year, and that's not even the whole story. Because looming over all of this like a dark storm cloud is the situation with JPJ. The suspension that has yet to come down from the league office. Roger Goodell and the NFL still haven't ruled, and everyone in Atlanta is holding their breath, waiting to see how long that ban is going to be and when it's going to hit. For a little perspective on how these things can drag out, look at the Rashee Rice situation from last year. Rice's ruling didn't come down until August 27th, and when it did, he was hit with a 6-game suspension that kept him out until Week 7. Right now, it's only the beginning of August, so there's technically still time for the league to rule before the season starts. But if the Falcons get unlucky with the timeline the way the Chiefs did with Rice, Atlanta could be staring down the barrel of losing two significant pieces of its pass rush right as the regular season kicks off, one to a season-ending injury and one to a suspension nobody can fully plan for. So what does a franchise do when the injury bug and the disciplinary hammer both threaten to hit at the exact same time? You go to the market, you go to the phone, you start making calls, and there is no shortage of names Atlanta could realistically pursue to plug this hole, whether through a trade, a free agent signing, or simply leaning harder on the guys already in the building. Let's start outside the building, because there is a genuinely intriguing crop of proven veteran edge rushers still available or gettable right now, and General Manager Terry Fontenot and the front office would be wise to be burning up the phone lines. First name that jumps off the page, Kyle Van Noy. 35 years old, which sounds like it should scare you off immediately. But stick with this one for a second. Van Noy spent the last 3 seasons in Baltimore, and what makes him uniquely valuable isn't just that he can rush the passer, it's that he brings legitimate positional versatility. He can line up on the edge, and he's shown the ability to drop back and play off-ball linebacker too. That kind of Leonard Floyd. These are true plug-and-play options. Floyd, in particular, is a familiar face. He suited up for Atlanta last season under this very coaching staff. Now, let's not pretend the production matched the paycheck. Atlanta paid him roughly $10 million and got back 3.5 sacks and 19 tackles, numbers that on paper look like a disappointment. But football isn't just about the stat sheet. By most accounts, Floyd was a steadying veteran presence in that locker room. The kind of guy who helped mentor younger players like JPJ, like Jaylen Walker himself, like Brandon Dorlus and Zach Harrison. He knows the scheme. He knows the calls. He knows how to set the edge even when the box score doesn't fully reflect his impact. Bringing him back wouldn't be flashy, but it would be functional, and right now, functional might be exactly what the doctor ordered. Haason Reddick is the more polarizing name on this list, and let's not sugarcoat that either. His reputation around locker rooms has taken some hits over the past couple of years. But here's the thing. He already played under this exact coaching staff back in 2024 with the New York Jets, so the scheme familiarity is real. Last season, with Tampa Bay battling injuries the whole way, he still managed 31 tackles and 2.5 sacks at 31 years old. The bigger question with Reddick isn't whether he still has the physical tools. It's whether the motor and the hunger are still fully there. But he knows the verbiage. He knows the stunts. He knows the responsibilities inside this system cold. For a team that needs an emergency plug-and-play option, that institutional knowledge is worth something. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there's Von Miller, 37 years old. Let that number roll around in your head for a second, 37. In NFL years, that's basically ancient history for an edge rusher. And yet, somehow, the man is still out there getting after quarterbacks at an NFL caliber level. Last season with Washington, across 17 games, Von Miller logged 9 sacks. 9. At 37. That's the kind of production that makes you pause and go, okay, maybe Father Time hasn't fully caught up to this guy yet. He'll likely come at a mercenary price, because a future Hall of Famer with that kind of ursum doesn't come cheap even in the twilight of his career. But by any reasonable NFL standard, Von Miller can still put a quarterback on the ground. If Atlanta wants a splashy, credibility-boosting name to stabilize the room while the kids develop, this is the kind of swing worth taking. There's also a hometown storyline sitting right there for the taking, Preston Smith. An unrestricted free agent as of right now and a Georgia guy through and through, Stone Mountain, Stevenson High School. Across an 11-year career, Smith has racked up 71 sacks, and he's built a reputation as an absolute Iron Man, someone who almost never misses time. He played 17 games back-to-back in 2022 and 2023 with Green Bay, putting up 8.5 sacks one year and 8 the next. Reliable, durable, productive, and now potentially available to come home. There's something poetic about a hometown kid getting the call to help save his own city's season. If Atlanta wants to explore the deep end of the market, Joey Bosa's name is out there too, though this one comes with an asterisk. Bosa has been dealing with injury issues of his own and has reportedly been mulling retirement. If a guy already has one foot out the door, chasing him probably isn't the best use of the front office's time or resources. Better to focus energy on players who actually want to keep playing. One more veteran worth a phone call, Derek Barnett, 30 years old, coming off 5 sacks last season with the Houston Texans. He brings a high motor and Super Bowl experience from his early days in Philadelphia. He's not going to be your headline starter, but as a rotational piece who knows how to bring juice off the bench, Barnett could absolutely be part of the answer here too. So that's the outside option, a legitimate buffet of proven veterans that General Manager Terry Fontenot and his staff should be dialing up immediately. Because between Jaylen Walker's injury and the JPJ suspension cloud, Atlanta genuinely cannot afford to sit on its hands and hope things work themselves out. But here's where this story gets really interesting. Because sometimes the best remedy for devastating news isn't found on the open market, it's found sitting right there in your own locker room, waiting for an opportunity. 2 names inside the Falcons building deserve special attention right now, because both of them are staring at the exact kind of moment that can define a career. The first is Azeez Ojulari. Another hometown story. This man is a Georgia kid through and through, having played his college ball for the Georgia Bulldogs right there in Athens. As a rookie, he exploded onto the scene with 8 sacks and has racked up 22 career sacks total. He's currently on a 1-year prove-it deal, which honestly makes this whole situation almost cinematic. This is quite literally the exact opportunity a prove-it deal exists for. With Walker sidelined, Ojulari has a legitimate runway to step into an expanded role, whether that's a heavier rotational third down presence or an outright starting job, and it all comes down to how he answers the call throughout the rest of training camp. If there was ever a moment for Azeez Ojulari to remind the entire league why he was a productive rookie pass rusher in the first place, this is it. Worth a quick mention as well, Cameron Thomas, a true grinder in the trenches who profiles as a heavier, more physical presence up front, with both Walker's injury and the looming JPJ suspension creating a snap count vacuum. Thomas is exactly the type of player who could see his workload double as the season rolls on. But the name that might carry the most emotional weight in this entire story is Bralen Trice. Here's a guy who represents the ultimate wild card in this whole situation. The last 2 seasons have been nothing short of brutal for Trice, who has been sidelined dealing with knee issues of his own across both 2024 and 2025. Think about the layers of this story for a second. Atlanta just lost a pass rusher to a knee injury, and the guy who might be asked to step up and fill that void is a player who has spent nearly 2 years fighting back from his own knee trouble. There's something almost poetic, almost redemptive about that storyline if you let yourself lean into it. After nearly 2 years away, Trice is reportedly 100% healthy, fully cleared, and actively participating in training camp. And remember what this team saw in him on draft night. Across 40 college games, Trice logged 18 sacks and 28.5 tackles for loss, establishing himself as a defensive anchor and an emotional leader for a Washington team that made a run to the national championship game alongside quarterback Michael Penix. This isn't a finesse player either. At 6'4" and over 260 pounds, Trice plays with a violent, high-intensity bull rush that can absolutely disrupt an offensive line when he's healthy and rolling. And the early reports out of training camp, including notes from family and friends' day, describe him as looking fluid, explosive, and every bit like a player who has put his injury troubles behind him. So here's the emotional gut check for every single Falcons fan reading or watching this right now. Yes, losing Jaylen Walker for the season is a gut punch. There's no spinning that. It's devastating, it's deflating, and it puts real pressure on a defense that was building serious momentum. But football, more than almost any other sport, is a game of next man up. It's a game where heartbreak for one player becomes opportunity for another. Azeez Ojulari gets his shot to remind the league what made him a productive rookie. Bralon Trice gets the chance to author one of the more compelling redemption arcs in recent Falcons memory. And out on the open market, there's a genuine wave of proven championship-tested veterans who could parachute into Atlanta and stabilize this room almost overnight. This is the NFL. This is the brutal, beautiful, unforgiving nature of the sport we all love. One man's misfortune becomes another man's moment. And how Atlanta responds over the next several weeks, who they sign, who they lean on, who steps up when the lights come on, is going to say everything about whether this defense can survive without the guy who was supposed to be its breakout star. So Falcons fans, here's where I need you. Drop a comment below and let me know exactly how you're feeling about this Jaylen Walker news, because I know this one hurts. Tell me which of these veteran names you'd actually want Atlanta to go after. Is it the championship pedigree of Kyle Van Noy, the familiar face of Leonard Floyd, or are you dreaming big and hoping the front office makes a run at Von Miller? And most importantly, tell me who you're putting your faith in from inside the building. Are you an Azeez Ojulari believer, ready to see him seize this opportunity? Or are you all in on the Bralon Trice redemption story, hoping this is the year he finally breaks through? If this video gave you the information you needed and kept you locked in from start to finish, do me a favor. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat of Falcons coverage. We are going to be all over this story as the memory results come back and as free agency moves start happening, so make sure you're part of the family for every single update. Jaylen Walker, we are all pulling for you. Rest up, heal up, and get back stronger than ever. To the rest of this Falcons roster, the next man up mentality starts now. Until next time, Falcons fans, peace and blessings to you all. Stay locked in, stay loud, and I will see you in the next one.